Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Joe Mac in New York. Of course, I'm in Las Vegas. We're having a nice cool day here today. We'll only get up to probably 90 instead of 110, which is nice for us. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Jim. It's been a wild football weekend, so I'm sure there's lots to talk about. I'll let you kick it off.
Oh, no, we started the day off, and I said, Joe, there's absolutely nothing to talk about. Yeah, right. I loved watching that Houston-New Orleans game last night. That was as good as a good game to watch, as for excitement purposes, and no matter what side you're on. Of course, I had the dog, and I was happy because I was never really in danger of losing that. But I guess you're always in danger of losing. So I take that back. But that was an exciting finish, and it just shows you can't give Drew Brees too much time or he'll kill you.
No, I thought that actually once Houston took the lead with that 37-yard touchdown pass by Watson to Stills, the first thought I had was, it's not the first time we've all thought this about a guy like Brees or whoever. I'm like, there's too much time on that clock. I mean, they're going to have a sack or a negative play here. I mean, the Saints still has a timeout, and then let's face it, they gave up way too much of a cushion on that pass. I mean, the secondary is dropping back, and meanwhile, you let the guy catch it. Now, granted, when he catches the ball, he's basically just outside the 40-yard line. I thought that might be a little bit too much for this kid's luck. So I think is legit one of the top 3 or 4 kickers in this league. But I still said, wow, 58, 59 yards, I don't know. But the bottom line is the Texans had that game, to say in the bank, scoring inside the last minute. And just gave up a little too much cushion on a couple of plays and didn't handle it right. Well,
you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you play them tight and they break free and get a long one, then you got a whole different situation. But Cronell he's been around, a defensive coordinator. He knows what's doing, but he did play soft. But they did get, a 58-yard field goal. I think the odds are actually in your favor that he's going to miss. But he certainly had no trouble with that. It was a hell of a game. And, the trade that they made to get Tunsil and Stills paid off in that game because it was a lot better protection for Watson. And although he did, I could say that, but he did get sacked 6 times. I mean, that's still a lot of sacks. But
right. The Saints defensive front was still pretty active all in all. And, I don't know, I just felt like after the Texans kind of blew that double-digit lead that, they probably weren't going to have it in them to, make a little run there. But they showed you a lot. But you know what? I get the feeling, for some reason, with Bill O'Brien's team over the last couple of years, whether it's been Watson quarterback or when you go back to the guys before they drafted him, they almost seem like they do enough just not to win, if you know what I mean. Like, they seem to be in too many of these kind of games. Now, like you said, you cashed last night with the Texans, and it was a good, solid play and everything. But, for people with the money line, it's a discouraging, tough loss. But they seem to play a lot of those games. They've had some of those type of games in playoff games in recent years. I don't know. I'm not putting it all on the feet of this coach. I don't think he's one of the top 10 or 15 coaches in this league. He seems to have his guys ready, but they just can't do enough to get over the hump. But let's face it, if you can steal a game like that right out of the gate, a road win, a road dog, you get a win like that, it could really be a nice little way to grease your way, slide your way into a nice 10 or 11 win season. When you lose a game like that, let's face it, like everybody else in week 1 who lost, you're climbing out of a little hole at the start. So, I don't know. Houston is a team that I like as a dog, but I don't always trust them, if you know what I mean.
Well, I know exactly what you mean. They have the talent. Watson is an incredible quarterback. He did get hurt, and you could see his back was bothering him after that one touchdown where he landed on his butt. And that's a painful injury. I've had that myself, and it's hard to get over that. But that the AFC South. Jacksonville lost, the Colts lost in a tough game, and Brissett played pretty well, but Vinatieri blew it for them. The 2 missed extra points and the field goal and all that. He he might be done. I mean, it doesn't look very good for him. He didn't finish last year very well. And, I think the big shocker that we got to talk about is what Tennessee did to Cleveland or what Cleveland did to themselves. That was a real shit show. I mean, here's the biggest hype team for the entire summer, building up more Super Bowl bets on Cleveland than any other team, et cetera, et cetera. Ridiculous, of course, but they were horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, it's funny because when you look at the final score, 43-13, if you weren't tracking it like we were or watching it, you think it's blowout city. But the fact is it just snowballed on them in the fourth quarter. But like you said, Jim, I mean, come on. I mean, it doesn't matter where you want to choose from. 18 penalties. I mean, how many unsportsmanlike penalties can you get? That's so undisciplined. I mean, a guy kicking another player in the head. It's crazy. Then you got Mayfield, and one of the announcers on one of the highlight shows, to me, lots of times there's just a lot of hot air, but one of the guys made a really good point. He said, boy, Mayfield looked like he was trying to strike for the big play on every single pass he threw. He wanted every pass to be a 30-plus yard chunk play. It doesn't work out that way in this league. And then you got, we've talked about Odell Beckham. I'm not blaming him for the loss. His stats were decent. He had one or two plays where he caught passes and shimmied his way for a few extra yards. But does he need to be wearing some multi-$1,000 watch on the field? I mean, who cares? But see, this is what he's all about. I saw it here for 4 or 5 years with the Giants. I mean, it's just shenanigans and nonsense. You don't need that stuff. Just go out there and play. And I mean, the funny thing is, like you said, they got all the hype this summer, but unlike teams that get all the hype like that, I mean, okay, they were 7-8-1 last year and were really an exciting team to watch, but they've never done anything in their franchise history, obviously. They became everybody's, what I called in a column today for Jim Hurley's network, they became everybody's summertime sweetheart, and yet they come out and look like that, undisciplined and getting booed by the home crowd. I mean, you know what? I don't know if I believe in must-win games in Week 2, Week 3 in the NFL. Because let's face it, the Texans, who we just talked about, they were 0-3 out of the gate last year, wound up making the playoffs. It's happened a few other times. But the Browns are in serious, serious trouble if they lose Monday night against the Jets. Their next couple of games are a primetime game at home against the Rams, and following that is a Week 4 game in Baltimore. I mean, just let everybody kind of soak it in, Jim. This team, it's the Jets who blew their own game on last Sunday at the Meadowlands. If the Jets happen to play a good game, they could be, they were 2.5, 3-point dogs. The Jets could win this game. The Browns could be looking at an 0-4 start. Now, I know I'm jumping the gate here, but, they could be 0-4. And their season could be shot before we even get to Columbus Day. So they obviously said too much during the summer. They talked and talked. You know what? Why don't, and I said this to a friend last night, why not everybody take a page from the Patriots? Okay, not everybody loves the Patriots. I understand that. You don't hear them talking. You don't hear nonsense. You don't hear, guys going on the field wearing $300,000 watches. That stuff's not tolerated. It's ridiculous.
Well, let me ask you this question, and this is interesting, and I talked about it the other day on a podcast. Greg Williams was the fill-in head coach last year for Cleveland, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was 5-1 in the 6 games that he coached, and I didn't understand why Cleveland didn't give him the head coaching job and went with a guy that has absolutely zero head coaching experience and zero experience in handling a team full of big egos. Williams is a defensive coordinator for the Jets now, which is where Cleveland is going to be playing next Monday night, which is quite interesting. And I'm sure Williams has a little bit chip on his shoulder as to why he didn't get that job and wants to. He'll probably want to go after Baker Mayfield quite a bit because Mayfield had a lot to do with Kitchens getting that job.
Bingo. You hit it right there. We don't know the behind-the-scenes talk in the Browns front office. Maybe there was a person. I mean, let's be fair. Greg Williams has been on a lot of teams, and he's had a lot of personality clashes over the years. I think it's rather funny. He's on like you said, he's the Jets defensive coordinator. and he's got a guy on his staff who allegedly he doesn't talk to, and Joe Vick, who they coached together for years, and Joe Vick and him don't have any relationship, and meanwhile they're colleagues as coaches of the Jets. But that's a whole other story. But I think Williams probably rubbed some people the wrong way, and you hit it. Mayfield went in there and went to bat for Freddie Kitchens. Who is Freddie Kitchens? Okay, well, I'm not going to bury him after one game, but I got to tell you, after seeing all the clips on TV, the press conferences and everything, he looks lost in space. I mean, he doesn't look like an NFL head coach. Not that a head coach has to look a certain way physically, but he like didn't have a clue after the game. I mean, all he kept saying is, "We're going to own this," and we're going to. Of course, you're going to own it. What he doesn't do. Your team was a disaster. They had almost 20 penalties. They went backwards more times than not. I mean, it's just crazy. But you made a really good point, Jim. I mean, Williams is going to be. Now, listen, he's licking his wounds today. The Jets gave up 2 fourth-quarter touchdown drives, 80, 85 yards. It had to play without C.J. Mosley, their star linebacker. That really killed the Jets. But anyway, back to my point. If the Browns don't win prime time next Monday night, I think they're going to be 0-4 out of the gate, and this season could be kaput, you know?
Well, when you get, not to throw dirt on this, but Kitchens has, when you're a head coach, it means you have the ultimate, you're the top of the food chain. You've got to make everybody else, go march to your tune. When you're a defensive coordinator, or offensive coordinator, or quarterback coach, whatever that is, it's a limited responsibility package. But when you're at the top of the food chain, like he is as a head coach, that requires a lot more attention to a lot more areas, which means you can't be specific to one set. Well, that's a tough job. And I'm not sure he was ready for that, and I'm not sure he was ready for it with a bunch of egomaniacs on his team, which obviously Mayfield and O.J. Beckham and are. And this is a problem. And why can Bill Belichick hire a guy like Randy Moss or AB? Because he won't take any crap from anybody. If they step out of line, they're gone. And he doesn't care who you are, what you do, how good you are, you're gone. There's only one guy he's married to on that team, and that's Brady, and nothing else. So you really have to be, he has to be in charge. And these guys talk too much and probably didn't prepare well enough. And the 18 to 20 penalties that they had shows me that there's a tremendous lack of discipline there. And going forward, that's going to be a problem.
Right. I agree. I wanted to say 2 other things kind of related or right on these topics. One is, like we said, Williams is gone. He's at the Jets. He's their defensive coordinator. The fact of the matter is that defense is not great. I mean, that is a 20 to 25th ranked defense for the Browns. They can talk all they want about Myles Garrett and their improved pass rush. Their secondary is not great. They don't tackle all that well. You know what? Everyone hyped up the Browns, like we said, but were people looking at the defense? To me, that was middle of the rung to down below type of defense in the NFL. And the other thing I just wanted to point out, I mean, it's funny, lots of times I really like to go against first-year head coaches laying points. I have to admit, now we had a good weekend at the Jim Hurley Network. We were solid in the NFL. We lost the total on the Monday night game with the Saints-Texans game we're talking about. But we had a good, solid week, including the Bills, including the Colts, plus 6.5. We know some people probably got it at plus 6 late, but for the most part, that was sitting on 6.5 for a long time. So we were pretty solid, and we had the under last Thursday night, Green Bay, Chicago. But the one thing I was going to say is there were 4 first-time or first-year head coaches who were laying points, and not one of them got the cover. I mean, Bruce Arians and the Bucs were actually a 1-point favorite, lost to San Fran. We talked about Mr. Kitchens and Cleveland. You also had, I'm just scanning down the thing but you also had 2 other coaches that didn't get, Adam Gase and the Jets, he was laying point, and I'm right now forgetting the 4th team, but you have that, and it's, again, not to just bury Freddie Kitchens, you've got these coaches that, even though Adam Gase has coached the Dolphins for 3 years before, still, this is a lot on the plate, a lot to handle, a lot to juggle, going into your first game with the new organization. I mean, in the Jets case, I'll give you an example. they talked all last week that they were not worried about the kicking game. They were fine with this kid that they got from the Vikings. That kid was a disaster. Now, I didn't know this until I heard a sports talk show in New York yesterday. They said that this kid, Bedvig, or however he pronounces it, that he was kicking in practice 11:30 in the morning, our time, an hour and a half before kickoff. And this was from a caller who called in WFAN in New York. This guy said Bedvig's kicks anything from 40 and beyond. He didn't make a single kick in practice. And that Case, the head coach, was standing next to him with the special teams coach watching. So in other words, you went into your first week of the season, you had no idea what you were going to get from your kicker. What happened? The guy misses a 45-yard field, not even close, misses an extra point, and the Jets lose by a point. You know what? I mean, the Jets, they played hard. They played well enough for the most part until the little collapse in the fourth quarter. But there you go. You go into it. You're a first-year coach, and you're looking at both sides of scrimmage. Meanwhile, how about making sure you got a kicker?
Well, you look at what the Bears happened. The Bears last year in the playoffs and the double boink the miss there, and you don't know what you're going to get there. And then you look at Adam Vinatieri for one of the best ever. Of course, he's been he's been in the league a little too long. It's starting to look that way. But he gave up 7 points and missed kicks, and they could have won that game out of the Chargers in California. And this kicking game is rough. And then last night, let's talk about this. The Houston Texans missed that extra point, except then there was a penalty and they got to do it a second time. But they did miss that extra point, which would have taken it, so these kicking games, and of course they moved that extra point thing back, a couple of years ago, and it does make a big difference. But this kicking game is something you really don't want to bet on. It's very difficult.
Right, and one last thing from my end here on kicking, and again staying kind of regional here with the Jets. The Jets had a Pro Bowl kicker, not just an average kicker this year. They had a Pro Bowl kicker, and I watched all the Jet games last year, and they were an abomination. Their offense was terrible. Donald was hurt for 4 games his rookie year. On and on I could go. They had a kicker, punter, and a kick returner who 2 of them were all pro, and all 3 of them were excellent. They actually met with the guy Myers, their place kicker, in the spring. He and his agent, like it's always done, they made a figure. The Jets countered with another figure. They didn't agree. He walked away. I mean, how do you let a guy who's a sure thing, especially at the Meadowlands, where they've got the winds in November and December that can swirl around, and this guy was a star kicker this year. The Jets basically didn't want to go for another, $200,000, so he walks. So now what do the Jets have? Disaster. A guy in the beginning of the summer who couldn't make a field goal, they cut him. Then they bring in this Texas A&M kid, Bertolo. He comes out in the press conference, I'm fine, I'm going to be the kicker for this team. He couldn't make a kick in the last couple of preseason games that had saved his life. Then they get this kid from the Vikings. My point is, the NFL is funny this way. They do all this, let's get our 45-man roster set. Let's get our 2D, blah, blah, blah. And you and I have talked about one part of this, Jim, in the past. A lot of these teams, they go in here, and they really don't have a quality backup quarterback, and a lot of them don't have a proven kicker. Well, as the Jacksonville Jaguars may find out, and I'm not heaping anything on Gardner Minshew. He might wind up being a decent quarterback. He actually played well in reserve of Nick Foles the other day. But let's face it, you're going into the season with a rookie quarterback who's about 6 feet tall, and you're asking him to save your season out that Nick Foles, who's always hurt, is hurt again? I mean, come on. These teams have to invest more in backup quarterbacks and kickers and realize how many games come down to that. And like you said, Vinatieri the other day was a disaster. They showed him on the sidelines at one point sitting there scratching his head, and I said to myself, he's got to be saying to himself, why am I still doing this? I'm 46 years old, and I can't kick very well anymore. So it boggles my mind. Multi-million-dollar franchises and whatnot. And in fact, you and I just banged around 2, 3, 4 games this weekend where teams didn't have a good kicker or may not have a good backup quarterback that has to step in now the rest of the way. Their season is almost shot before before it even starts.
Well, let me add to this, and maybe even disagree a little bit. Maybe there just aren't that many good backup quarterbacks or kickers.
Well, you know what? I'll take the kickers first. I don't really agree there because I think the kicking game has gotten better. Now, granted, the fields are manicured better and whatnot. And I mean, you wouldn't even see many guys, you see desperation 58-yarders in the past. I'm not saying you wouldn't. But I think there's a lot of quality kickers out there. I mean, if you just really sat down with a list like in a fantasy league, I mean, I really could pick 12 to 15 kickers that I'd be happy with, from Tucker in Baltimore to who I just mentioned, Myers with Seattle, to Lutz here. I mean, you could come up with a whole lot of guys. So I think there's good kickers out there. I don't think the team's put enough emphasis on it, and I don't know why. And as far as backup quarterback, that part I might agree with you. I mean, it's funny. The college game is so much of a passing game, but it's so much of a, like they say, system-type game that a lot of these guys, I mean, how many guys come into this league, Jim, and you hear the same thing? They've never taken a snap from under center. You're like, what? You can't play every play shotgun in the NFL, but that's what college teams do. So maybe the college systems seem like they're preparing these guys, but meanwhile, they're not in terms of quarterbacks. You're having guys come in here, and, they step back in the shotgun and throw the ball 50 times in a game. It's a different world in the NFL where there's 4 or 5 good pass rushers as opposed to 1 or 2 in college games. So I kind of agree on one, disagree on the other. I think there's plenty of good kickers out there. Let's face it, if you have a good one like the Saints kicker, you're not going to let him go, unless you're stupid enough like the Jets, who had a great one and let him go. Quarterbacks, I agree. But the other thing is, you have all of this offseason, basically from the draft, free agency, and whatnot. If you're a general manager of a team, you're a coaching, executive staff, you've got to, turn over every rock, as they say, to find yourself a decent backup quarterback. I mean, again, I could sit here and list you half the teams in this league that don't really have either confidence that their backup quarterback can do a good job, or, you can't find a quality guy. And like I said, I point to Jacksonville. They made a big to-do about signing Nick Foles. Hey, Nick Foles is legendary for the Super Bowl run and the Super Bowl win in Philadelphia 2 years ago. Nick Foles, I mean, seriously, Nick Foles gets hurt like if he goes to bend over to pick up a newspaper. I mean, he gets hurt all the time. And so that's their backup plan. Gardner Minshew, who had 8 good games at Washington State in his career, and now they're going to ask him to save their season.
Well,
I'm not saying Blake Bortles was the answer either. Don't get me wrong, but
we are going through a change, and we've got some aging quarterbacks that, and I'm talking about quarterbacks over 35. We got a couple that are in their 40s, and you're going to start to see a drop off. We're going through a big change in the NFL, where these kids that are coming out of college that are truly not prepared to play under center in the NFL. And when you saw it last night with Watson, it was very noisy in that stadium, which it always is. And he likes to play out of the shotgun, but he had to go under center a lot. And he was much less effective when he was under center because he drops back far and the pass rush is on him too quickly, and he was not as effective, but he couldn't hear the signals. So, that's a home field advantage that was tremendous. I mean, the fans really damaged him in that way, but he's a great player, so he was still in the game. But across the board, I think talent is an issue. And when you have as many teams as you have, and the complicated situations where a kicker is kicking under a lot of pressure in an NFL game on worldwide television is different than kicking in Podunk, Missouri, on a Saturday morning in a college game. It's a pressure situation. And, I think we have, it's skill positions. And the quarterbacks get a lot of money for what they do. They get hit hard. And some, it is what it is. It's all part of the game. It makes everything a lot more interesting and a little bit more dangerous sometimes to bet on teams that are not solid. And the Jets look to be not solid. I've never been a big Gay's fan. I think he was great at what he did in a position coach, not as a head coach. I wasn't impressed in Florida, when he was with Miami. I'm not impressed so far in New York. But we're running out of time here, Joe. Thank you. What do you got on Jim Hurley this week?
I'm glad you asked. We got a lot going on. Obviously, it all starts NFL Week 2, Thursday night. Big game in the NFC South. Tampa Bay at Carolina. Both of them coming off losses, so this is important. We're going to have sides and totals. Jim Hurley Network. That's 1-800-323-4453. Again, toll-free number. We've been around since 1985. We don't win every game, but we win a lot of them, and we win most of them. And we've had a winning percentage really in the mid to high 60s over the years in the NFL in recent years. So make sure you're with us. Sides and totals, Bucks, Panthers, at 1-800-323-4453, or else you can get it on our website, www.jimhurley.com. Of course, got a big-time college week straight ahead. A lot of big games. Iowa State. We're definitely going to have a play on that one, so make sure you check in. Game day mornings on Saturday and Sunday. Game day afternoon on these Thursday and Monday games. 1-800-323-4453. That's the Jim Hurley Network.
Thank you, Joe. We'll talk to you again in a couple days.
Okay, looking forward to it. Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye. And you can go to jimfeist.com for my plays and articles and other podcasts. Thanks, and thanks for tuning in, and good luck.